Just more than a year ago, South African businesses forged a partnership with the government to address SA's economic crises. This week, the partnership will collaborate to set up a new independent digital evidence unit that will extract and analyze data from encrypted devices to provide evidence that can stand up in court. Business Day's editor-at-large Hilary Joffe joins us now with further insights on the partnership and what it can and cannot do. Of course, before we move into the kind of new focus areas that they're thinking of adding, in terms of what we've done so far, is there enough evidence to suggest that this partnership is doing what it is supposed to do?
I think there is certainly some evidence, and on the energy front, quite significant evidence. So business and government partnered under the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa June last year. And they chose very carefully 3 areas, and the first 2 are completely obvious.
Yes.
They were weighing on growth heavily. That's energy, electricity load shedding, and transport and logistics, which was Transnet's inability to rail or ship anything to market. The third one they chose was crime and corruption. And I think we all wondered what they were going to do about crime and corruption, which is a very big and very bad problem. They've given us a window into that this week. But I think on energy, they certainly deserve some credit for ending load shedding. They work through these joint, the NECOM, the NLCC, and through NECOM, they've done some really targeted work and supported it with finance and skills at some of the Eskom power stations, which seems to have made a real difference to load shedding, as well as obviously the private sector power that's coming onto the grid.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Hilary, we were trying to figure out how they would play a role in crime and corruption. And maybe the reason why we were asking so many questions is because it's a bit of a slippery slope, isn't it? It is crime, it is corruption. We're speaking about prosecutions. Let's talk here about what they are proposing or what they are speaking about establishing.
As you say, it's a difficult one because first of all, where do you start? And second of all, there's the question in this sector more than any of the independence of the law enforcement institutions. You cannot have business being seen to be influencing who does and doesn't get prosecuted, for example, or who doesn't and doesn't get pursued. So I think that's been quite a thorny one. And it's taken some time, I think, to put this partnership initiatives in place, and they have now zeroed in on 2 of them, which I find very interesting. The first is we've got to get off the grey list. And one of the most pressing things we need to do to get off the grey list is to show we can make progress on prosecuting, I think it's 20 priority crimes, which have to do with money laundering, which is what the grey list is about. Okay, so the initiative that the partnership has agreed to put in place is on the financial forensics, the follow the money stuff, to prosecute those money laundering priority cases. The second initiative, which they've only just announced for the first time this week, is so the first partnership is with the police, the Hawks. The second partnership is with the NPA, with the new-ish investigating directorate. And that is on the state capture related crimes. And there, what I think the NPA had asked for is some help with setting up a digital evidence unit. So as you can imagine, these days, the way you get evidence is you get hold of people's cell phones and laptops, which are encrypted, and you get the kind of people who know how to crack those codes and extract the evidence and extract the data and turn it into evidence you can bring to court. So that is what this partnership is going to be about. So it's those 2 initiatives, one on the financial forensics with the police, the other on the digital evidence with the NPA, that the partnership is now working on. Now it's quite early days, but I think that's been a really interesting and very targeted route to go.
Has anyone weighed the costs of this? I know that it's early because also you talk about the fact that we need people with skills, really clever people, to actually be able to do this job.
I think that's exactly why it makes sense for business to get involved, because where the partnership works best is where it can take skills, especially specialist skills,
Yeah.
and resources, including money, that resides in the private sector, and allow government to tap into it.
Okay.
And I think these two are areas exactly like that. Business is actually investing a lot of money and time. Government is investing actually from its side quite a lot of time. And apart from money, because there's this resource mobilization fund that business has set up, which is run independently, and they've, I think, raised about 180 million, which is targeted at buying skills, basically, and expertise in very specific areas in energy and in transport. I presume they're also going to raise more money for the digital evidence unit, which is going to be housed in a separate independent entity. And in addition to the actual money, there's quite a lot of time that's invested, a huge amount on both sides, and a lot of, I think, quite a lot of business time and skills that are donated essentially for free. So a lot is going into this partnership, and the question they must surely be asking, and we are asking, is it worth it? So far so good, I'd say, but it is set up so that they do have to demonstrate progress in all these areas.
Okay.
I think what will matter here more than it did with logistics, more than it did with energy, is very clear lines. I think you've mentioned issues of independence, because sometimes business is complicit in the organized crime, in the following the money, in the financial and forensic issues here. And we're going to have to be very clear about where these lines are, and maybe have, that accounted to the South African public. I'm just keen to get your thoughts on that one, because I think that's a mammoth task on its own.
I think that's been a really big issue. Anton du Plessis from the NPA talked a lot about firewalls in this digital evidence unit, which is why it's being set up as an independent unit with its own independent board. And the money will come from the private sector. But the NPA, for example, won't know where the money's coming. The board will check that it's not dodgy, but the NPA won't know that such and such a company funded it, and therefore we shouldn't go off to such and such a company. So those firewalls are really important to preserve the independence of those institutions. But it's also in businesses' own interest that they don't be seen to be trying to influence the outcome. But it's obviously in all of our interests that those priority crimes get, orange overruled, if you like. And it would be a confidence boost, apart from, getting us off the grey list, holding people to account for state capture, enabling us to pursue corruption cases, because the police and the NPA have not done a very spectacular job so far. And I think there is a shortage of these specialist skills. And these, the NPA has made clear, are specialists, so specialist that in a lot of countries in the world, the public sector doesn't have you can imagine those techies are not going to go and work for the public sector. Yeah. They are going to, you need to pay them well, and you need to put them in the kind of unit where they can operate comfortably and independently.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and giving us more insight on this, Hilary. We will be keeping our ears to the ground on more developments. That was Hilary Joffe, Editor-at-Large for Business Day.